Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you be so kind?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. We need to do roll call.
Oh, yes.
Present.
Brenda Witherspoon.
Present.
Vice Chair Scott Spradley.
Here.
Chairman Joseph Pizzulli.
Here.
Catherine Fine.
Here.
Joanne Soman.
Here.
Scott Chapius.
Here. Okay, approval of meetings from July 5th,
There's
2022.
one change. The vice chairman should say Scott Spradley.
What did I put on?
Nobody, you have Scott Chapius.
Okay.
When you miss Scott altogether, so
Meeting minutes.
that's the only change I saw.
So, let's see, that was on page 3 of 5. Yeah. Okay.
And Bonnie, you have an announcement regarding those minutes too?
Yes, just to read into the record, Brenda Witherspoon filed Form 8B, Memorandum of Voting Conflict for county, municipal, and other local public officers due to a voting conflict.
It was within 200 feet of the applicant.
And that was for last meeting minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, motion to approve, or
I move to approve the minutes as changed.
has changed?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, approved. Old business? I don't think we have any. New business, application CSP number 22-08-01, applicant to present a conceptual site plan, architectural elevations for retail tire and brake store at Beach Village Shopping Center. Out parcel comprised of 1.2 acres. Larry?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Obviously, this is an application for conceptual site plan review, the purpose of which is obtain feedback both from staff and from the planning board. The applicant, unfortunately, is absent. We do have a teleconference. We have an engineer. We have a representative from the architect's office, as I understand, and as we speak, Bonnie is dialing in. We will call the representing engineer. He in turn is going to a conference with his team as well. I can tell you that I had a rather extensive discussion this morning with the engineer. I'll go over the comments that I relayed to him, both as it relates to the site plan and to the architecture and the elevations of the building. So once we have him online here, we can begin. So with your patience and indulgence, we'll get started hopefully very soon.
Hello. Hi, this is Bonnie with the City of Flagler Beach. Hi, how are you? Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and put you on speakerphone. Okay. All right, you guys are on speaker.
And Bonnie, is this Matt?
This is, I'm sorry, what was your
Matthew.
name again?
Hello?
This is Josh Helgelsauer with Larson Design Group.
Josh,
Josh,
architect?
Josh, hi, Larry Torino. Nice to meet you over the phone here, but welcome to the meeting. Are you the only representative that's going to be chiming in on for this meeting?
No, Mitch Lau from Bowler Engineering, the civil engineering consultant, is also on the line.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Larry.
Okay. Hey, Matthew, thank you. Appreciate it. Sorry you couldn't be here in sunny Flagler Beach, but we can still carry on with business. What I'm going to do, what I'd like to do for the board, it's up to you. I can basically summarize the discussion that I had with Matthew this morning, both as it relates to the site plan and to the building elevations. They're present here. Once I make my comments, they could either respond to them or wait until the planning board verbalizes whatever comments that you may have. But in my conversation with Matthew this morning, I basically covered two elements, and one is the site plan, and I'll start with that. I did applaud Matthew because several weeks ago they did submit a preliminary plan for me to review. I did make comments to that site plan, and the site plan that you have before you is in fact the amended site plan that basically responded to all the concerns that I had, and you may have some others. But as for myself, generally speaking, with one exception, and I'll bring that up in a minute, I feel they responded quite favorably to the recommendations that I had made, and primarily it was regarding the access drive off of Beach Village Drive, which is the opposing driveway, is the Truist Bank.
Right.
That they were, there was a significant hiatus offset, and I felt it much better, even though it's not a public road, that it would be better if they could shift things around to make those access drives align in case someone wanted to go from the bank and spend their money on tires or brakes or whatever, and vice versa, go from the tire place and take money out of the bank to pay for the tires, either way. But they did respond. The only comment I had, and it's something that we don't require, but in our ordinance here, it states that we encourage, and that is appropriate on-site amenities. And what I did mention to Matthew was that there's a waiting room in the retail store section. And I thought, with the weather being what it is here in South Florida Central Florida, old habit, that it would be nice if in that grassed area that's on the north side of the property, that they would develop some type of an amenity where people, while they're waiting for their vehicles or so forth, that they can either go sit, to open their tablets, do whatever work, or just have their family out there with them or friends. So Matthew did respond that they would consider that. Again, I note that it is not a requirement, but I just felt that there is significant open space on this property, and that would be something that could be beneficial to their patrons. That was essentially it for the site plan, with the exception of landscaping. I didn't really go into detail with Matthew on that this morning, but obviously the way the building is situated, the garage doors will be facing State Road 100. There'll be a stack of bays fronting on 100, and the bays on the opposite side facing Public Shopping Center. I did try to revise the site plan it's not, you can't win no matter which way you turn the building. So, I mean, the way the building is oriented, I'm fine with. But what I'd like to comment on is that the proposed landscaping at the front of the property along State Road 100, they're calling for, if you know vegetation, a podocarpus hedge to complement the existing trees that are there. And my only comment was that they're showing hedge material, I think it's 10 to 24 inches in height, and spaced 30 or 36 inches on center, that I would recommend. I'm not saying it's going to be unsightly. I think the building, once it's amended somewhat, will present a pretty good street picture for the facility that it is. But I was trying to get a little better screening at the driver's level that would create a denser screen along that property frontage. I don't think it would take much to do that because I don't know how many of you may have driven past that site lately, but the existing trees, they provide a pretty good canopy. The trees in and of themselves do an adequate job from that perspective, but I felt that if they can tighten up that hedge a little bit, the hedge material, it would just add to the favorable environment along that corridor. But that's my comments to the site plan. The building elevations, Matthew and I, we talked pretty extensively about this. Most of the comments that I made, most all, come from, thankfully, our ordinance that requires architectural standards for non-residential buildings. And I'm going to begin with the site plan, again, to reference it with the building elevations. If you look at the site plan, at the building footprint, it shows 8 bays, 4 on one side, 4 on the other. Yet the elevations that we're looking at show 6 bays on one side and 6 on the other. My concern was with the additional bays, does that have an impact on the site plan? And I was told by Matthew that it does not. If you look at the building footprint closer, actually the enclosed space, if you will, is decreased to accommodate these 2 additional bays on either side. But with that being said, the main thing, the main subject that I addressed with Matthew was the theme, the architectural theme of the building. In and of itself, I think, well, I feel I did a very, very good job. If you look at the material changes, if you look at some of the articulation that's incorporated, all those good things being said, and I told Matthew I'm not critiquing this building, but my one comment is I don't feel it fits the environment that we're in, and essentially I'm referring to the Publix shopping center in trying to maintain that Key West type look, that more tropical type look. So that was my overriding comment. But some of the other more detailed elements that I brought out was they're showing a flat roof with a fall parapet. It really is not a parapet. Our design guidelines do not allow for a flat roof, that a parapet has to be elevated. We talked about the screening enclosure for the mechanical equipment, which is situated on the roof. Again, if that were a flat roof, which it will not be, I think it would even create more of a visual concern, but that is something that we addressed. I addressed if you look at what on the paper shows as the left elevation and the right elevation, the roof line is consistent from one end to the other. We require a break in the roof line. I believe it's every 50 feet. So that's something else that would need to be addressed. We talked about, even though there's not much wall area on these elevations, basically what reads as the rear elevation and the right elevation have the most square footage of wall, but by our code, we don't allow a blank wall. My recommendation, again, I'm not the designer, but whether it be a Bahama shutter or something on there to give some identity to what that structure may be. Let's see. Oh, another issue, or not an issue, but a comment was we require articulation at the building entrance. They do show a canopy, which is good for massing, but based on what our architectural guidelines require, our architectural requirements are, I just felt that the entranceway, which is shown on what reads as the left elevation, the doors are at the right.
Faces Moody, right?
Yes, that faces Moody. That would be the entrance into the retail store. I believe that's, and correct me if I'm wrong, Matthew, I may have had some other, oh, I know another one. If you look at the right side of what, again, is the left elevation, adjacent to the retail store, you'll see what looks like a post with the little rectangular diagram on it. Those are actually air pumps. And my concern is that side of the building faces, there's no access. So you would either have to park in a parking space on the front side, or on the opposite side, you would have to park either, to me, it looks like you would be parking in the driveway and could be blocking access. So I've asked Matthew to have their team revisit that and to see if those items could be placed somewhere where they would appear to be more accessible and kind of out of the way. I've said a mouthful here, Matthew. If you or Josh would like to respond, we're open to that. Or if you desire, we can hear from the planning board, any of their comments, and you can address all of their comments and all of our comments at one time.
Thank you for that, Larry. So I think at this point in time, Josh, unless you have any objection, I would say let's go ahead and hear any of the remaining comments from the planning board. Everything that you just mentioned, we discussed this morning, and so are familiar with your current comments and concerns. So happy to hear from the planning board. And again, do apologize that we were unable to make it in person there, but appreciate the opportunity to participate nonetheless. Hearing a lot of architectural concerns or comments right now. I think we'll spend most of the time with Josh discussing what can be done to the building. But initially, these site comments heard about tightening up the landscape buffer along State Road 100, introducing a small amenity space in the landscape island, and obviously concerns with the the air inflators. Those are in their prototypical location, but can be adjusted on site as needed. So appreciate those site concerns, and happy to hear from the rest of the board as it relates to any other comments they may have.
Okay. Scott, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Nothing at this time, no. I think Larry cleared up a few things I was wondering about.
Joanne?
It does look a little boring. I mean, the facade looks boring. Other than that, nothing.
Kathy?
Yes, I wondered where the tires are going to go. They get taken off the cars. I mean, you're a tire place, so that means you put new tires on their cars, so where do the old tires go? There doesn't seem to be any place for that, like dumping things.
They will respond to that but I can tell you, I asked the same question, and everything will be interior.
Oh, okay. All
No
right.
outside storage.
So the 8 bays became 12, and I agree with maintaining the Key West look. You're at the entrance of our city, and your property is in the public view, all 4 sides. So it's got to look good on all 4 sides. That's what I think. I guess, that's it for me for now.
Larry, thanks for the presentation. Sorry about that. Larry, thanks for the presentation. A couple comments on, I was looking at the staff comments section of this, and you hit on some of them. There were a couple, though, that I was wondering, you mentioned, you had a question about rooftop access, about sidewalk connection at State Road 100, and lighting for the building. Are those still concerns, or those matters have been cleared up?
No, I actually, let me address those one at a time. Roof access was discussed, and the best of my knowledge, it's the roof access will be from the interior. My concern was an exterior ladder, whether it was a safety ladder where people wouldn't have access to it, and if it was there, what type of screening or something that we could address that with, because that side of the building would face Publix. As far as the lighting I was referring to was not parking lot or public lighting, because that will, at final site plan, they will submit a photometrics plan to address that. I was concerned with the building lighting and whether or not they would use pack lights, making sure that there's no glare. But again, those would be addressed for final site plan.
And then the other was
sidewalk connection.
Sidewalk connection.
Yep. I went back and I revisited the site, and I know for what I'll call interior lots, we require a sidewalk connection. But based on the location of this building, there is a sidewalk connection at the east end of it. There's a sidewalk that goes along State Road 100, and then there's a sidewalk actually on the easterly side of this building. So that would address, that would provide for a sidewalk connection into the site.
Okay. Thanks, Larry. Those are my comments.
Brenda?
I have a few things, if you'll indulge me. Some of these I parrot every time. Is there a plan to install surveillance cameras at the exterior of the building? And I ask that for a couple reasons. One, a lot of times cars are parked there overnight or in the morning. And if you're going to have an outdoor area, you're inviting homeless and people stepping through. So I kind of like to see a surveillance on the exterior. In doing research on this company and their product, they offer brake replacements. So I was just curious if someone could share how you will store and dispose of the expelled brake fluid, if that is in fact going to be a service. And I have to piggyback on the comments as far as this is the welcome into our community and our city. And on page 5D of the conceptual site plan application, D says exterior finish and color to be determined, but on the plan it calls out for teal, which is not the color that bleeds onto this. It's your logo is an extremely vibrant teal with an extremely vibrant yellow. And my question is relating to the subtle sophistication of that plaza, and just a plea to ask you to tone down those colors, because I don't think toning down those colors is going to make your property any less visual. So, and then that's really basically it, and I thank you for any response.
Paul?
I just have one question, is where do the customers wait while they're getting their work done?
I believe it's in the right-hand side where the double doors are. If you look at the left elevation and look at the very right.
Gotcha.
That would, and above it, you'll see the enclosure for the mechanical, rooftop mechanical. So I'm assuming that's the only air-conditioned space. So, are you done? Okay. So my comments would be, if this is a flat roof, we're going to provide a parapet all the way around, and then there would be additional articulation to separate the 134 feet of just one plane. So our next generation of this will indicate the height of the parapet.
I'll let the applicant, let Josh, the architect, respond to that, Joseph.
Okay, so that'd be one of my questions. Also, if we were supposed to be compatible with the public shopping center, it is more of a Key West look. Is there any possibilities of paint alternatives? I know that, Mavis has their own logo and color, and that's very important, but perhaps the signage alone would still give them their image and their statement, perhaps. This is more of a modern looking building to me. Now, the bank is a little bit more modern, but it's more of a pastel color, I think, than it is this dark. Now, this color on the facade, is that more like a midnight blue or something? It's teal. So maybe our prints are.
Yeah, they're off.
They're off.
It's F1, color number 19 teal, and it's a little bit lighter than this. It's more of the old doctor's office surgeon teal with a glowing yellow.
I'm not quite sure what you do to the architectural style to transition it to feel like
Key West.
Key West. That would be a challenge. But I think if it's possible, that would be nice to do so. And maybe the parapet would be one detail that we could pick up from the public shopping center, maybe some knee braces. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but the style is totally different from our Key West look.
Joseph, just to soften the building, like on the blank walls or whatever, again, I'm not designing the building, but wood siding, in order to soften up the material, the finished material?
Actually, it would. I mean, creating a different texture, which could be a horizontal siding, that would be one way to do it without having to redesign the whole architectural style. It'd be a material change, which would then add texture to the building and be a compatible material to the rest of the shopping center. I think that's probably a great idea, Larry. I look forward to seeing what else could be done. I agree that as of right now, once you build this building, you're going to have 4 fronts. I think the left and the rear are articulated enough that it's interesting. And I think the front elevation, which is along Beach Village Way, because of the storefront and the cantilevered overhang with the tension rods, that speaks for itself. But on the rear elevation, which is the west elevation, maybe you could, even just the material change would help soften that up. I think that might be a big step moving forward.
If I could interject, and one item I forgot to address was, and I mentioned it to Matthew this morning, the elevations, the way they're described on this plan sheet, don't correlate to the way we read front, rear, side based on the lot geometry. So basically, the left, what reads, starting from the top, what reads as the left elevation is actually the front elevation.
Facing 100, right?
Yes. What reads as the right elevation is actually the rear of the building that would face Publix. The right, what reads as the front elevation, is actually the right elevation that will face Beach Park Drive as you're driving in. And the last one, what reads as the rear elevation, is the left elevation. That is the side you will see as you're driving east on State Road 100, approaching the property.
And it's really ugly.
But I can tell you this, I'll call it the front elevation because that's how it reads on the paper right now. That's the side that will face Beach Park Drive. And if you look at the landscape plan, they've really done an upscale job of creating a good streetscape along that little stretch of the building. So I congratulated Matthew and to pass that along to his team there. And the building design as well. I mean, for what it is, the way it's shown, I think it's excellent. It's just in the wrong, it's not Flagler Beach. So Matthew, you're welcome to, Josh, you're welcome to comment.
Mitch, since your comments are,
Okay.
I guess, a little bit more minor than mine, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I mean, again, appreciate the board's review and commentary here. Again, I think from a site perspective, we're able to address many of your concerns, if not all, especially sidewalk connectivity, the air inflator locations, and what have you. So really appreciate your guys' review, and hopefully we can get over or come to agreement, consensus on the building design here. So I'll turn it over to the architect for addressing your comments and concerns.
Again, I'd like to thank you guys for the opportunity on this one. I guess I'll try to move through your questions first and see if I can get those off the plate before I kind of get into the actual building design itself. So I saw one come in with the number of bays, and so this is considered an 8-bay garage. I understand there are 6 doors on each side. That being said, 2 of those rarely actually open themselves. They are mainly used to take in and take out materials and tires and storage and things like that. There are only 4 service bays on each side of the building. So as far as the tire location and how they are disposed of, so inside this building there is a large rectangle of space that is what's considered a scrap tire area. So tires, after they are taken apart, are stored in that location for a period of time. I don't exactly know how long they're stored there. I believe it's a couple days based on scheduling. But then they are brought out and disposed of by a truck at a later point in time. That is also kind of very similar to the way they dispose of oils and brake fluids. So they use a dry cleanup method for all of their disposal. So nothing will go down into underground or through sinks or anything like that. It's all disposed of with dry cleanup, and then they put that in containers and ship that out as well to be disposed of separately. I saw another one, which was roof ladders, and I'll kind of discuss that along with the drainage. So all of the equipment is on the roof itself and internalized. So there will not be any downspouts or scuppers or roof ladders visible from the exterior of the building. The only other question I saw was the air inflator location, and that's something that we can adjust per site. The only thing that they actually demand on that one is that it's visible from the customer service desk, so that the person overseeing the facility can essentially monitor that location and its use. Oh, there was one more. So inside the showroom area, there is a waiting room with a kids play area and television and things like that. So that would be the waiting area for anyone during this time of service. There are no cars, to my knowledge at least, that are really stored overnight because this is considered a minor repair garage. So everything is supposed to be a come and go procedure. So I don't entirely know that a security camera system is necessary, and I know it's not something we ever really install on any of the other locations, just because it's everything is supposed to be done the day of service. So there are no cars that are to be stored. As far as discussion points, so these elevations were done by someone else, but I can speak enough to them where I can debate this a little bit. So the canopy, based on my understanding, is not to be enough to satisfy your requirements for entrances, correct? So in that case, we would then need to pull up the parapet higher than other portions to gain that requirement. Am I understanding that one correct?
Josh, if I heard you correctly, you're saying the canopy satisfies the entrance comment?
I was asking if it did. So are you looking for more there? Maybe it's a parapet enlargement so that it's higher than the remainder of the building?
Yes. Yeah, the roof line, the way the regulations read is that actually, I think it's 100, and I'll continue talking while I'm looking for this, but I believe it's either 50 or 100 linear feet. There needs to be a break.
50.
50 feet? Okay.
Okay.
Section
I. And in terms of roof line in general, I know, so the flat roof design is what helps us internalize a lot of the systems here. So I understand one of the concerns is screening of mechanical units and kind of blending into that, what was described as Key West design. So is there an opposition to, if we're able to articulate the parapets so that they're high enough to screen the utilities, but also have a little bit of variation, is that enough to satisfy your requirements without going to a pitched or gable roof in any instance?
Yes, the regulation does not require the mechanical equipment to be fully non-visible, but we do not allow a flat roof. So whatever height the parapet would be, from that point above, would then have to be screened. So to answer your question, no, you wouldn't have to build necessarily a gable to conceal all of the mechanical equipment.
Okay.
But what we do need are the specs of the screening material, what the fabric would be consisted of, its durability, things of that nature.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Say you.
Larry, if around the perimeter of the building it was more like a 12-inch curb, theoretically it's a low parapet, and then in the middle where you have the large black spans because you don't have the aluminum horizontal detail, maybe that's where we step up the parapet?
That's exactly the conversation Matthew and I had this morning, because I believe that's also where their signage
Would go.
So it can frame all of that in.
Right, rather
Yes.
than, because then the proportions might start to get a little bit weird if you have a parapet that's 3 foot high all the way around and then raise the middle portion another 3 feet. Now we're starting to look at something that doesn't necessarily aesthetically look as good.
Yep, I think that'll work. I mean, the mechanical equipment, as I'm reading the elevations here, it would appear to be closest to the roof line at obviously over the retail store area, so it would be closer to the front of the building. So maybe that's, that would help if they did that on all 4 sides. It would take care of the issue. If they raised the parapet at each one of those openings on each elevation, except for the rear, and that really isn't, that from street level, it wouldn't be in it. It would be screened as well. So I don't know how that sounds, Josh, but that is one option.
It's doable. I'd say it's hard for me to make any decisions as obviously I need to represent our client, but everything does have to go back through them at this point.
And Josh, I don't think nobody here is expecting you to have answers tonight. Really, the purpose of this meeting is for you to hear from the board and take those back and work with your client to come up with to try to address those issues that the board raised. So you're not meant to be on the spot tonight to answer every question that was asked of you.
Absolutely. I'd say the final thing that is going to be hard to meet is I'll say the muting of the teal tones. That's usually been a point of contention because that is their branding. So that one will be hard to sell as anything other than the teal and yellow.
Josh, let me ask you this. The teal, say you run with the teal color, is there any way to narrow that band? It would still be the teal, but perhaps it would be more like a band around the area that it's in now, both above it and below it. Another material or finish or color or whatever, but wide enough where their brand is highly visible, but the width of that band as it reads now appears to be, I might be reading it wrong, it's in 3-4 feet, somewhere in that area.
Yeah, it's definitely possible and something we can explore.
The other thing I noticed too, Larry, is that it's a split face block, which is nicer than just painted stucco, but.
Right. No, I mean, that's why, I applaud them on what they, as far as the banding and the plinth, and it's fine. It's just does not meet the theme that we're trying to accomplish at that location.
Do we have to open this to public? No? Good.
You're not making any formal decisions, so you do not have to. You're always welcome to.
Josh, do you think you have enough information now to present something back to Larry that would be acceptable to your client too after you talk to him?
Yes. So again, I thank you, and I think this is definitely enough that we can run off of and make some decisions.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. I'll open it to public. Any public comment?
Certainly. Rick Bellimer, Flagler Beach. All right, I'm looking at what was provided online, so I don't know if you guys got updates or what, but on these site plans, one drawing I'm looking at has a pathway that you can drive straight through, and the other one that was a landscaping showing doesn't really show that. So my thought is, or concern would be deliveries. Pretty good sized truck bringing tires in or taking old ones out and not having to park in the service roads, that there would be room on site for them to get those vehicles.
Are you speaking about the cross-access drive?
There's this one that shows the trees and vegetation does not show a drive that goes all the way through.
All the way through?
Well, I mean,
At least not until that next lot's built on, because according to the sketch we have, it does go out, but it goes out into that other lot until it's developed. And then I don't know if they're gonna want tractor trailers driving in their lot
But the main access comes from the
But-
back.
from the backside, but I see what Rick's saying.
This
There's no
other
way for a truck to
drawing
get out.
has a driveway that goes all the way past the building from one side to the other. So a truck of that sort would be able to drive through in one side and out the other, rather than have to turn around.
So, here's one access.
Yeah,
Here's another.
yeah, but this access is into a vacant lot. This is not access.
That's just,
It's just to walk in. So it's coming in here.
or you could come in by the,
Or you can just back all the way in. This is where, I mean, this,
you could come by the gas station.
yeah, come in this way.
That way.
Yeah.
It's a tight turn.
Well, it's getting back out to the college, and they don't want them parking here to do the job, or here to do the job. So I see what he's saying.
Well, it depends. If they have deliveries 6 a.m., it's not a big deal.
Right.
That's all I had.
Fair comment for the applicant to note, though, is maybe the next time they're in, to be sure they show their delivery access, their access routes.
Josh, did you get that?
And
Okay.
I'm not sure if we are free to discuss at this point in time.
Say that again?
Would you like him to discuss?
I think all you need to do is really, well, you can, I mean, we have access off Beach Village Drive, which is the north-south access, and then we have access off Beach Village Way, which is the east-west. So deliveries could come either way. And I'm assuming that you said earlier that the 8 bays are serviced, and then the 4 additional bays that are on the north and south side would be for deliveries and moving things in and out. Is that correct?
Yeah, and if I can help address these are not, large tractor trailers that are bringing in the tires and supplies. They're actually brought in on box trucks, so smaller style trucks, and they are loaded through the service bays themselves. So any of the operable service bays that Josh was mentioning earlier that are open for deliveries are their primary delivery method, but again, not a large tractor trailer that you would customarily see at the public shopping center, but more of a box truck.
Understood. Any other questions?
Yeah, Matthew, one last question. Those 4 bays that are not service bays, are those doors during operating hours generally closed, or are they open?
The service bays, all doors are generally closed during operating hours. They're only open to for enter and exit of the building for the vehicles.
Okay.
Is that your question?
Unless they're gonna see it.
Wait, let me understand that. I'm talking about the other bays that aren't used to do the service work. storage.
So there are 8 bays, there are 10 doors. 8 of the doors are operable. All 10 doors are operable, but
Correct.
only 2 of them are really open and closed for delivery services. The other 8 doors are customarily open and closed as they're bringing vehicles in and out for servicing.
Okay, so to my point, and most of the day, these doors will be only open when you're for ingress and egress of vehicles.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
So it's air conditioned.
So the whole thing's AC'd? Am I understanding that correctly?
Is the entire building air conditioned?
Correct.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. There you go. I want to work there.
Well,
Go ahead,
go
Larry.
ahead. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm done.
Any
Yeah, I
further
just
comment?
have a question. I didn't know if he said this or not, because I can't hear that well, but did he say that things would be stored on that rectangular piece of land? Oh, okay,
Inside.
thank you, okay. And the other question, I can see where the signage is going, 1, 2, 3 spots. Does he need 3 signs?
They haven't submitted a signage program
Okay,
yet.
because, we only, one side is on a road, and then the one is on the public side of the building, and the other is on the side on the street that comes in.
Right, I'm not aware of what their
Okay,
signage
I'm just
is.
looking at the signage, and, because I agree with Brenda totally about the awfulness of the colors. Okay.
It's too bad, I like teal.
Well, as long as you're not fluorescent or iridescent,
Okay.
we can't control that.
Okay, if no further comment, Matthew and Josh, hopefully this was helpful for you. And,
Absolutely. We thank you.
all right, well, have a nice rest of your evening. And then I guess we'll come back to, if I find my,
Board
All right,
Board
thank you so
comments?
much, guys.
thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Have a good
night.
one. Thank you.
Yep. All right, any board comments?
I would just like to invite you all to attend. The Flagler Women's Club is having a candidate night tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. We hopefully have all the candidates for the 2 county commission seats and the 3 school board seats. So 7 o'clock, Flagler Women's Club. Mhm.
Okay, any further comments?
Very good.
Homemade cookies. Jane's baking. Jane and I are both baking. Really?
I just found out, Joanne.
All right, do I entertain?
7 people are making cookies.
I know. I got the text. It's all good. There'll be lots of good cookies.
Okay.
Entertain a motion?
I move to close the meeting.
I second to close.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Woo-hoo. Less than an hour. Life is good.